streaming on News9 Plus. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
Hello and welcome. I'm Padmaja Joshi and you're watching the show that's not just about being interesting but also focuses on what's in your interest. And today we're going to talk about the Saif Ali Khan report, a report that has reportedly thrown up even more questions than answers. Do we even now, after 1 week, know exactly who took Saif Ali Khan to hospital? Everything else is secondary. We still don't know who took him to hospital. How many injuries does he have? How many times was he stabbed? We'll talk about the Ganga versus Yamuna battle. It's a Ganga-Jamuni battle, if you will. And it's a challenge that has been thrown to Arvind KEJRIWAL by Yogi Adityanath. And we'll also tell you why immigration agenda is back in focus in the United States and how birthright citizenship isn't a lost cause in the US just as yet. But we're going to start from Mumbai. Shariful Islam Shehzad, the man who is accused of attacking Saif Ali Khan, today was sent into police custody until the 29th of January. His earlier custody ended today. The Mumbai police are confident that Shehzad is the real culprit and they have a watertight case against him. But just like every other day in this case, a new report has now surfaced and new questions have also surfaced. What we are talking about is a document. The document you see on your screen right now is the admission report of Lilavati Hospital for Saif Ali Khan from the night of January 16. This report gives details of what exact kind of injuries were inflicted on him, but most importantly, it now establishes that Saif was brought to hospital at 11 minutes past 4 in the morning and he was brought there not by Kareena Kapoor, not by his son Ibrahim or Taimur, but by a man called Afsar Zaidi. Afsar Zaidi, who's said to be a friend of Saif Ali Khan. This runs counter to the earlier claim that Saif went to hospital on his own in an auto rickshaw. So now, who is this friend? Who's this friend who has surfaced? Well, Zaidi is said to be an entrepreneur who started a celebrity management company called Exceed Management in 2005. Exceed Management managed several stars like Priyanka Chopra, Hrithik Roshan and Saif Ali Khan. They represented all of these film stars. Zaidi subsequently stepped into other businesses as well along with his Bollywood friends. He was the founder of HRX Fitness along with Hrithik Roshan and he also founded the House of Pataudi, a fashion brand in partnership with Saif Ali Khan. But the key question, did Zaidi take Saif to hospital? Was he in the auto rickshaw with Saif or did he come later? Did Taimur really accompany Saif and Zaidi? Or was this man alone with Saif in the auto? And most importantly, if Zaidi, a friend and an adult, was anyway taking Saif to hospital, why did he choose an auto rickshaw? Why didn't he simply drive him? Wouldn't that have been faster? Now, here's the other thing. The time of the assault is stated in the report as 2:30 a.m. and the time of admission in hospital is 4:11 a.m. which means there is a gap of 101 minutes between the time that Saif was attacked and when he was admitted. 101 minutes to take him from home to hospital. But the Lilavati hospital is just about 10 to 15 minutes away from Bandra, where Saif and Kareena live. What explains this time gap? Now, some reports quote Zaidi to say that he was called by the family. They called up Afsar Zaidi and they said, listen, reach hospital and finish the paperwork because Taimur is with Saif and he's too young for all of it. But again, one asks, if Saif Ali Khan was fit enough to ride all the way to hospital with his son in an auto rickshaw and even walk in like a lion, as doctors have claimed, how was he so weak that he couldn't do the paperwork for his own admission once he reached the hospital? Now, the third point. All this while, we have been told that Saif Ali Khan suffered from 6 stab wounds. The admission report details 5 wounds. 4 are lacerations and one is an abrasion on his elbow. So there are 4 laceration wounds which could be because of stabbing, and one is an abrasion, what you call kharoch, on his elbow. Then there were those wounds which are discovered later. Are we to believe that these wounds were discovered later after the initial admission report had already been filed? Let's give you now a lowdown of what the report says of each of these wounds, and then think of the image of Saif Ali Khan coming back home. What are these injuries that he sustained? The first is a laceration on his back on the left. This is perhaps one of the largest. It is between 0.5 centimeter to 1 centimeter, and it's on the left of his back. Then on his left wrist, he has a laceration which is 5 to 10 centimeters on the lower lateral aspect. When Saif walked out, you remember he had his arm bandaged around this point. So that's where he got a laceration about 5 to 10 centimeters. Then there is another laceration, an open wound on the right side of his neck that measures about 10 to 15 centimeters, and on his right shoulder. So he's got on the left back, left hand, right shoulder and right neck. As far as the shoulder is concerned, there is a laceration about 3 to 5 centimeters, and on his left elbow there is an abrasion wound of 5 centimeters. That's the left elbow as marked out. Today when Shariful Shehzad, that's the man who has been arrested, when he was presented in court after his custody came to an end, all these discrepancies, you're not the only one asking questions, all these discrepancies that we have been talking about, you have been thinking of, were raised by his lawyer in court as well. His lawyer said in court that there are a lot of things that don't add up. In fact, the man who has been arrested, his face doesn't match the image that has been caught of the accused on CCTV, and now one by one even politicians in the state are questioning all of the police's theory.
You have shown some documents that face is not matching.
Face is not matching, but the face structure is totally different from the present accused.
मुझे लगता है कि डॉक्टर की जो ट्रीटमेंट की है, हॉस्पिटल में ट्रीटमेंट की, उनके ऊपर कोई शंका लेने की आवश्यकता नहीं है. बट एक इतने बड़े घाव है तो इतने जल्दी दुरुस्त कैसे हुए, ये थोड़ा आया है बाहर. एक स्टेटमेंट आया हुआ है, संजय निरूपण का भी आया हुआ है, नितेश राणे जी का आया हुआ है. तो मुझे लगता है कि ऐसे स्टेटमेंट देने की जरूरत तो नहीं है, बट ये भी डॉक्टर की कुछ मेडिकल व्यवस्था पे भी प्रश्न चिन्ह उठाना भी ठीक नहीं है.
ये मेडिकल चमत्कार है, तो मैं उनकी जो स्वास्थ्य है उनके लिए मैं शुभकामनाएं दूंगा. हमारे देश के अच्छे कलाकार है, मंसूर अली खान पतौड़ी के बेटे हैं, करीना कपूर के हस्बैंड है, तैमूर के पिताजी है, तो स्वस्थ रहे. चाकू कितना भी अंदर घुसा हुआ आदमी जिंदा है और अपने पैरों पर चलकर घर जा रहा है. ये हमारी लीलावती अस्पताल के डॉक्टरों की एक चमत्कार किया वो लोगों ने, ऐसा लगता है मुझे.
Is this then a chamatkar, a miracle, or is there questions which the Mumbai police needs to answer? Look, there can be a million explanations for many of these questions, the loopholes, the seeming loopholes, but those explanations need to come not from people like the auto driver or the doctor. They need to come from the Mumbai police, and they need to come quickly. Because in the absence of this clarity, with every day throwing up some new contradictory information, the rumor mills are working overtime, and the real danger is that when these pieces don't add up, these discrepancies, these conspiracy theories could end up having a detrimental effect on the case itself. It's time to say hello to a Ganga versus Yamuna contest. Yes, you've heard of Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb. Now get ready for a Ganga Jamuni challenge. And we will tell you all about who is winning this challenge. How did it all start? When Yogi Adityanath kicked off his election campaign blitz in Delhi on Thursday, he threw an open challenge to Arvind Kejriwal, his counterpart in Delhi. Remember, on Wednesday, you'd seen these images of Yogi Adityanath along with 54 of his cabinet ministers taking a dip at the Ganga at the Sangam in Prayagraj, where the Kumbh is ongoing. A day later, he flew to Delhi. He was campaigning for his party, the BJP, and he threw down the gauntlet for Arvind Kejriwal and said Can you stand in the Yamuna with your ministers just like I did at the Sangam?
54 मंत्री मेरे साथ प्रयागराज के संगम में एक साथ डुबकी लगाए हैं। श्री अरविंद केजरीवाल जी से मैं पूछना चाहता हूं, क्या यमुना जी में वह भी अपने मंत्रियों के साथ जाकर के स्नान कर सकते हैं क्या? यमुना मैया को एक गंदे नाले के रूप में बदलने का अपराध क्या उन्होंने किया है कि नहीं किया है? जिस जनता जनार्दन की इस अदालत में उन्हें कोई माफी दी जानी चाहिए, वो माफी के हकदार नहीं हो सकते।
So the challenge, the comparison is straightforward. My Ganga is fit for bathing, your Yamuna is hazardous. Is there any truth to the claim? Let's find out. What we are getting to you is data from last year released by the Central Pollution Control Board, or the CPCB. What were the Yamuna versus Ganga figures like? The first parameter we looked at is the presence of fecal coliform, which is the potency of a bacteria. Simply put, it means just how potent is the bacteria found in the water that was tested. The less potent the bacteria is, naturally, that is when the water is safer for you. The acceptable range for this is between 500 to 2500. The Ganga at Prayagraj was slightly more than the accepted level at 3300. So the ideal limit is 500 to 2500. The Ganga was at 3300. Now hold your breath. Literally, for where the Yamuna's measurement stood, it stood at 2,50,000. 3,300 in the Yamuna, in the Ganga, and 2,50,000 in the Yamuna in Delhi. The bacteria in our dear Yamuna is 100 times more potent, more dangerous than the one found in the Ganga. Good luck, Delhiites. The next parameter is the minimum dissolved oxygen concentration, which should be over 5 milligram per liter. The more the dissolved oxygen, the better the water is. The Yamuna scores here, thank God. The dissolved oxygen concentration in the Ganga was at 2.8 and the Yamuna has it at 9.6. The median or the ideal level is 5. Next we come to the biochemical oxygen, and an ideal measurement is 3 milligram per liter or less. The lesser the biochemical oxygen, it means the cleaner the water is. The Ganga's measurement over here was 7.9 and in the Yamuna it was at 54, 8 times higher. Again, let me remind you, the ideal limit is 3, the Ganga has it at 7.9 and the Yamuna has it at 54. The final measurement are the pH levels. It provides protection. You would have often seen pH in your soap or in the water or in your cream. The ideal pH level ensures that your skin and your eyes when exposed to water are not hurt. It's not abrasive. Ideally, this range must be between 6.5 and 8.5. The Ganga has an average measurement of 8.25. The Yamuna is at 6.82. So both are okay here. These are the 5 parameters we looked at. After the analysis, simply put, the Yamuna in Delhi at present is unimaginably dirtier and definitely more dangerous. It has more potent bacteria in it, it has more dirt in it than the Ganga at Prayagraj, especially when it comes to that coliform level we were talking about. So what steps did the UP administration take to ensure that the Ganga stays that way? A 200-kilometer temporary drainage system to channel all grey water to treatment facilities has been put in place. Grey water is basically the water that turns grey when you have washed your utensils in it, or after cooking and washing or bathing. The water turns grey, so it's called grey water. That grey water is sent to treatment facilities. Round-the-clock separation is done. The flowers and the puja material are kept out of the water. The Pollution Control Board does daily sample testing in the Ganga to check if any immediate intervention is needed to maintain the water quality. There is also state-of-the-art technology being used to handle human waste. All of these contribute to ensuring that at least a basic level of cleanliness is maintained. It's not ideal. None of the parameters are at the ideal level, but at least we can achieve a somewhat ideal situation so that it doesn't kill us. Remember, last November, before the Chhath Puja, the Delhi High Court refused to lift the ban on celebrations in the Yamuna after the Delhi government itself submitted in court that devotees will fall sick if they stepped in the Yamuna's water. That's how polluted it was. Around Chhath, they said, don't let the devotees go in, they'll fall sick. The court didn't agree. As a result, horrific pictures emerged of women entering this water in the Yamuna to pray amid toxic froth, a far cry from what the Delhi Chief Minister, the then Delhi Chief Minister Arvind KEJRIWAL had promised in 2023.
मैंने आपको एक प्रॉमिस किया हुआ है कि अगले चुनाव के पहले आपके साथ यमुना में डुबकी लगाऊंगा, वो कर दूंगा पूरा।
अगले चुनाव,
हाँ, अगले 2025 का जो चुनाव है, मैंने आपको बता दिया 2025 तक हो जाएगी। अभी बोला 2025 के चुनाव के पहले आप सबको लेके डुबकी लगवा के लाऊंगा।
Well, there's still hope for Arvind Kejriwal because Chhath 2025 hasn't happened. Yes, the election may happen, but his deadline that he set for himself is Chhath of 2025. What can he do to ensure that he meets the deadline he set for himself? The first important step is to check the untreated sewage from hundreds of industrial units that dot the banks of the Yamuna, set up infrastructure to reroute this waste to treatment plants. Second, treat domestic waste discharge from millions of unauthorized settlements. Third, regulate the use of Dhobi Ghat area and the floodplains. Fourth, comprehensive center-state coordination. Fight on every other thing. Please, just clean the air and clean the water. Yogi Adityanath may have raised the Ganga Yamuna challenge, this Ganga Jamuni challenge, to make a political point, but for 3.3 crore Delhiites, it's a much, much bigger issue. If only to ensure that the water we drink, bathe and even pray in, here's hoping that by Chhath 2025, the Yamuna is clean enough for our Chief Minister to take a dip in it, irrespective of who that Chief Minister is. And the United States, how can a day go by when Donald Trump doesn't stay in the headlines? He makes the headlines and then he stays there. Of the many, many decisions he took soon after becoming president, the blowback has now begun. Birthright citizenship in the US is not a lost cause, at least just as yet. A federal judge blocked Donald Trump from implementing the executive order that curtailed automatic birthright citizenship in the United States, and while doing so, he even said, "My mind boggles." The US president had signed this order on the 20th of January, his first day back in the Oval Office.
Under the 14th Amendment of the United States?
That's a good one. Birthright. That's a big one.
What about that one in the court? This next order relates to the definition of birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment of the United States?
That's a good one. Birthright. That's a big one.
What about that one in the court?
While Donald Trump thought that was a good one, a big one, the judge clearly didn't think it was good, even if he thought it was big. Because the Seattle-based district federal judge, John Kohinoor, dealt the first legal blow to the hardline policies, which are the centerpiece of Trump 2.0. He blocked the executive order, halted enforcement of the policy for 14 days. So what does the birthright citizenship exactly imply? Under it, anyone born on American soil automatically gets US citizenship, regardless of what their parents are, what their immigration status is, irrespective of what their citizenship is. The judge's ruling is the first after a flurry of lawsuits filed this week across the US to block the order. Washington was joined in its lawsuit by Oregon, Illinois and Arizona. 18 other states filed a similar lawsuit in federal court in Massachusetts, and several immigrant rights groups have also sued the administration in New Hampshire. But Trump stays adamant. He has said he will contest this judgment.
Who were prosecuted by the Biden administration for exercising their First Amendment right.
Okay, thank you very
Mr.
much.
Mr. President, a U.S. judge temporarily blocks the birthright citizenship order. Do you have any reaction?
No, obviously we'll appeal it. They put it before a certain judge in Seattle, I guess, right? And there's no surprises with that judge.
The Seattle judge has called Trump's protecting the meaning and value of American citizenship order blatantly anti-constitutional. Trump's order stipulates that his administration will no longer recognize automatic citizenship for children born on US soil to parents who lack legal status, as well as children born to non-citizen parents who are in the country on a temporary work, student or tourist visa. So what was so far known as baby tourism, where pregnant women go to deliver their children in the US simply for them to get citizenship, that's not going to happen. Judge Kohinoor has called this order blatantly unconstitutional. Next, the Justice Department's lawyer argued that a judicial ruling blocking the executive order is wildly inappropriate. The judge then hit out at the lawyer, saying, how could a member of the bar call the order right or in keeping with the Constitution? Critics argue that Trump's order violates the right enshrined in the Citizenship Clause of the US Constitution's 14th Amendment that was added in 1868. Simply put, this amendment ended slavery in the country and established citizenship for freed black Americans, as well as, and I quote, all people born or naturalized in the US and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. There are millions of people who are eventually going to be impacted. The US workforce includes more than 30 million immigrant workers, according to the Pew Research Center. As of 2022, of these, 22.2 million were in the US on legal work visas, 8.3 million were unauthorized migrants. Those 22.2 million documented workers were in the US on a range of work visas. The US offers a set of 14 broad categories. Had Trump's contentious order been implemented, it would have hit children born in the US, to H-1B visa workers, those waiting for a green card, those who are on a temporary visa, those who are on a student or visitor visa, and even undocumented immigrants. Hundreds and thousands of children born to Indian immigrants in the US each year and families would be put in jeopardy. US-born children won't be able to petition to bring their parents to the US after turning 21 if they don't get birthright citizenship. This means that more and more families would stay separated. The US is trying to do away with this right, but there are other countries who persist with it. Most countries with unconditional birthright citizenship are in the Americas and the Caribbean. Their policy is also a legacy of colonial times. These countries are Canada, Mexico, Belize, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Panama, Honduras, Nicaragua, Cuba, and Barbados in Central America. Then there are countries in South America. These are Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Ecuador, Paraguay, Peru, Uruguay, and Venezuela. Interestingly, in Asia, Pakistan grants birthright citizenship. So you've got about 25 countries around the world which have birthright citizenship available. However, critics say that this only encourages immigrants to come in the US to acquire citizenship. Birth tourism is a term that has been widely used, and they want to get away with it. They want to do away with it. There is a trend, according to Trump supporters, where women travel to the US specifically to give birth so that their children can have US citizenship. What's the way forward now? Can Trump end birthright citizenship simply with an executive order? If other courts also rule that the American Constitution protects birthright citizenship, only a Constitution amendment can change that. And that's not going to be easy going, because such an amendment to the Constitution would require 2/3 of both houses and an approval by 3/4 of the state legislature. Other than the fact that you have to whip up the numbers, this process could also take years. In the new Senate, Democrats hold 47 seats, Republicans hold 53. In the House, Democrats are at 215 and Republicans are at 220. The American Constitution has not been amended since 1992. But given how Donald Trump is quite certain that this is a big one, it's a good one, you know that you should prepare to expect the unexpected. Is an amendment to the American Constitution the next step? All right, that's it then on today's edition of In Your Interest. Remember to keep your appointment with us tomorrow at 8 p.m. See you then.
ये बड़ा होके मम्मी का, पापा का, दादू का सबका ध्यान रखेगा।
रिटायरमेंट के बाद किसी पे बोझ ना बनने का परफेक्ट प्लान। कैनरा HSBC लाइफ इंश्योरेंस रिटायरमेंट प्लान। कैनरा HSBC लाइफ इंश्योरेंस, प्रॉमिसेस का पार्टनर।
What is to the nines? In literal terms, it's perfection. But to us, it's not just a phrase, it's an attitude. One that starts at your desk and sends a statement to the world. To the nines is about taking charge. It's a way of life where every seam, every fold, is crafted with excellence. It's timeless elegance and uncompromising quality made for the corner office. It's the ideas that inspire redefining order and elevating the tabletop. To the nines, for the leaders of today and the visionaries of tomorrow.
I always feel the first hurdle is the biggest hurdle.
The process is the fruit, then it's amazing.
When is the question, whether or not is not the question.
If that were the case, man would have never reached the moon.
Victory for the East India Company in the Battle of Plassey marked the beginning of their rule over Bengal and later almost all of the Indian subcontinent.
When Clive arrives in Murshidabad after the victory of Plassey, 24 boats are loaded with the treasure of the Murshidabad treasury and punted down the river to Fort William, Calcutta.
Anything that is said to belong to Tipu was acquired and sold and traded and treasured.
They always knew that at some point in time they will have to come to a state where they will have to fight with the Marathas.
You know, the Kohinoor has in the eyes of the colonizers and the colonized become a sort of symbol of colonial loot.
This loot is displayed in British museums. India's looted treasures.
From the highlands of Afghanistan to the jungles of Vietnam, the deserts of Africa, to street battles in Mosul, the AK-47 has dominated every conflict. But what if it could be made even better? Enter the SSS Defense P-72, India's answer to the AK-47. So how good is it? Let's find out.
This and more. Streaming on News9 Plus. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
It's not the fiefdom of politicians. They owe it to the people. Matter is now more about faith of the millions of devotees than just political slugfest. Does that mean that I can't get a job in Chennai, although I may be best suited for that particular job? They have more civic sense, they have more of civility than all these men. My name is Sudha Sadanand. Welcome to the South Indian.
We are at the highest airfield in India and one of the highest airfield in the world. It is the most beautiful airfield in India. There's no aircraft that cannot land on this airfield.
This will be the highest airfield in India and 5th in the world.
This particular runway will cater for most of the military aircraft, fighters and transport landing.
A strategic edge to the forces, deterrent for our neighboring countries.
Jai Hind.
Yes, 100% completion. TV9 News and your News9 Plus is the first team here.
This and more. Streaming on News9 Plus. Subscribe and get free vouchers.